What's going on, everyone? So, Jared Vanderbilt, he's somebody that I think has the potential to be maybe the biggest factor for the Lakers. I know we kind of feel like we say that every year, but pre-injury, he was in a lot of ways. Now, the biggest concern with Jared Vanderbilt is him getting played off the basketball court, right? Because of his lack of offense. Well, a couple things. One, he's been working very hard this offseason, which he's finally able to do on his shooting, particularly that corner three. So hopefully that helps. He's also been working on his finishing at and around the rim. There's videos of it, all kinds of stuff, right? Now, the last time we got this was 2 off seasons ago. And we got like one game in which he was like, I think it was like 3 of 5 from 3 or something. I think he missed his first 2 and then made like the next 3 or whatever. And we were like, oh, he's back. My God, everyone move out the way, right? Vando is coming to town. And then he ends up getting hurt. And then last offseason, he got double foot surgery, so he wasn't able to work on his game. And I even talked about this year, like he just looked like he was missing a step. He didn't look like his normal self. I mean, he's always had the fumbling issue and finishing around the rim, always been a poor shooter, but even just defensively, like there were plays that he was getting beat on that he usually doesn't get beat on, right? There was balls that he'd usually get to that he just wasn't getting to. Like he was just kind of a step behind. And you see, I mean, Jared Vanderbilt is, I mean, by every metric, the best defensive player or on-ball defensive player in all of basketball. Right? It's not just my opinion. Like, again, the metrics are there. And I want to talk about some of those because Cranjis McBasketball did a whole thing over on X, Twitter, right, where he kind of broke down some of the defensive stats, and they're amazing. And that was in what I thought was, and many people thought was, a step behind year, right? He was getting back from injury, so he wasn't fully himself. And I've talked about if we can get that Jared Vanderbilt back, if we can get the Vando that is able to cover the ground, in which we were one of the best defenses in all of basketball as soon as we added Jared Vanderbilt, or we were the best defense in all of basketball as soon as we added Jared Vanderbilt. Now, it helped that you had Anthony Davis, right? But Anthony Davis and Jared Vanderbilt essentially by themselves with D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves and LeBron James, who is not as good defensively as he was this past year, the Lakers were the best basketball team or best defensive team in all of basketball. Lakers' best 5-man units were still with Jared Vanderbilt, even pre-injury and all that stuff. And, and yet the big concern is him getting played off the court offensively. Here's the difference though, right? The reason it was harder to play Jared Vanderbilt with Anthony Davis and LeBron James is because both guys want the paint cleared. Right? And Jared Vanderbilt, teams just leave him open and just let him be, right? And pack the paint, right? Look at the in-season tournament. How did the Lakers win that? Right? They just put LeBron and AD on the block and everything just ran through them around the rim, inside-out game, right? LeBron wants the paint cleared so he can put his head down, get to the basket, kick out to shooters, right? Anthony Davis, yes, he can knock down the mid-range and all that stuff, but he wants to kind of get in, beat the defender off the dribble and then kind of do that little floater or the little turnaround and whatnot, right? They aren't really jump shooters. They're not guys that are, shooting over the top heavily. Both guys are capable of doing it. Both guys can do it, but they're not guys that are getting to their spots and picking teams apart and shooting over the top. Luka doesn't mind the traffic. He's okay with it. He actually prefers it, right? Because he wants to create that dribble penetration. He wants to collapse the defense and then have the easy lob, or he wants to kick out to shooters at times, or he could just shoot over the top, even of all 5 of them. And he does it regularly, right? Because he is a jump shooter. He is a guy that does like to shoot and is comfortable shooting over the top. So Jared Vanderbilt is a lot easier to play and justify because you don't need the same type of offensive schemes and floor spacing with Luka that you do for Anthony Davis and LeBron. Now, obviously, you don't want to rely on that heavily, and that doesn't mean that, now you can play him 40 minutes a game. I still think, based on what we saw, he's an assignment guy, but if he can get back to that 2023 conference finals run, Jared Vanderbilt, I think the Lakers are in business, baby. I think now he could solve a lot. And then again, if he is literally like a serviceable, not even great, not even elite, nothing. Just slightly below league average, right? 3-point shooting, right? He's just like a slightly below average offensive game from being the best, two-way guy in all of basketball at that point. Because he is that good defensively, right? But like I said, basketball gave us some information, gave us some insight. So I wanted to go over it and talk about it because I think that this kind of shows a lot, right? Jared Vanderbilt was the NBA's most impactful, versatile defender this past season. How often he guarded each position? Point guard position, 19.9%. Shooting guard position, 19.3%. I want to pause there for a moment. So you're talking essentially 40% of the possessions defensively were on the guard position, right? Particularly in the Western Conference. Now, the reason that's important is because it highlights something that I've talked about very heavily, and that is starting Vando at the 2. And anytime I mention this, I get a lot of comments from people that are like, Vando isn't a 2. What are you talking about? Oh my God. And their heads explode, right? Just because he starts at the 2 doesn't mean that he actually is playing the 2, right? Like most lineups are defensive oriented anyway. And again, Vando's playing and defending 2s on defense all day, all game anyway. Right, so you could go a Luka Doncic with a Jared Vanderbilt and a Rui Hachimura and whatnot. LeBron likes to play at the top of the key anyway. So you know what you do in that situation? One, you're super big, but you could go with like Luka is going to do his thing. You move Vando to the 3, Rui to the weak side corner, right? And then LeBron's going to play at the top of the key anyway and move without the basketball, do all that stuff, right? Like again, just because Vando plays, just because his on paper says he was slotted as the 2 doesn't mean he's really the 2 guard, right? Like outside of the skill positions, everything else is interchangeable, right? What is it? Positionless basketball. Not positionless. You still need a point guard. You still need a playmaker. You still need a center, right? There's still positions that you need, but like that 2 through 4, right, is essentially where the positionless comes in, right? A lot of those lineups are for defensive purposes anyway. So I just wanted to get that out the way because I wouldn't hate a lineup where maybe you're starting Rui at the 2 for that point of attack defensive assignment, especially if you can knock down the 3 with some consistency. And again, the evidence proves it. The evidence shows 40% of the possessions he is defending the guard position, which is more than anything else. Right? Because small forward, power forward, and center are clear different positions. But back on track. Small forward, he defended 15.5% of the time, which was actually his lowest. Power forwards, 24% of the time, which was his highest like single individual spot. And then center, 21.3% of the time. His balance guarding 1 through 5 ranked 4th in the NBA. He had the highest impact of the top 10 in that versatility. Dorian Finney-Smith was another guy that was doing that. Giannis, like, guys like that. But he also followed up and added, interesting fact, using LeBron, the 2 seasons Vando's been the most impactful in general or for his defensive role have been ones he guards bigs the most. I think that's very interesting. Using him as an action eraser with his switchability instead of an on-ball guard wing that you can easily switch off. So basically him as the help defender on like the big guy, or when you're going, kind of running when teams are running the pick and roll with the big little, or they're running picker, like he's the guy that can kind of play off of that and be that kind of help defender. Like this doesn't mean like, oh, put him on Jokic, right? No, it's just he is really good at the help defense. And I mean, if you watch the film and the tape, you can see that. Like you can see the help defense. And and so he's a guy that I think really can help. And then for those that are wondering, like, what's the LeBron stat? Because I've talked about LeBron stat before, and people usually ask. It's like luck-adjusted player estimated using a box prior regularized on-off. It's just basically a metric. They have the defensive metric and then the offensive metric. Basically, like the on-off, you're adjusting for the player, like what's his on-off production. And so again, it's not like literally LeBron. It's just the if you take the first letter of the acronyms, spell out LeBron. It's kind of basketball indexes personal kind of metric system. It's basically these several kind of metrics put together to produce the offense and defense side of things. You have LeBron, you have D LeBron and O LeBron, which is offense and defense. But essentially, it's just a player's overall offensive impact and defensive impact. There we go. Summarize it. But point is, right, Jared Vanderbilt still is, again, by every metric, the best defensive player in basketball, right? He's the guy that is able to defend legit 1 through 5. He's one of the better help defenders in all of basketball and a guy that can make the impact all over the basketball court. Again, I really think the Lakers should start him. I think you start him over a Rui Hachimura or an Austin Reeves, one or the other. And I think you have him kind of be that defensive purpose. Again, like, particularly within the first 5 minutes. Because Luka in particular, right, he loves to use the first quarter to kind of gauge the rest of the game. Talk about it all the time. Luka, some games will take literally half of his field goal attempts in the first quarter alone. He wants to go drop 30 in the first. So you don't need you don't need all this other scoring in the starting unit, or at least that first 5 to 7 minutes, because Luka's going to do so much of it early on. And then you go, that's why I've said, like, go with Marcus Smart, go with Jared Vanderbilt, right? Because again, you're not as concerned about the lack of shooting because of Luka, but also when Luka is torching teams and he is giving you 30 in the first quarter, you have the defense now to really create that separation. But the games where Luka's kind of struggling and can't find his rhythm, you have the defense to kind of close the gap so teams don't pull ahead. So anyways, always, this is a discussion, pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. It's me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.